And the first of our two awardees is Michal Feldman. And she's a professor at Tel Aviv University and has made a wide array of contributions to algorithmic game theory, particularly around pricing and contracts. So I am excited to see what she has to say for us today. Thanks, Michal.
Thank you very much. Okay, great and exciting. Good, so I'm going to talk about a new theme, not really new, but you'll see it's an evolving theme, saying that approximation is the new optimum. But before I start, I would like to first congratulate Bobby and Noam and Christos. It's a great honor for me to be sharing this award with the legendary Bobby. Where you are? Where are you, Bobby? Okay, here. And Christos and Noam, who have been true mentors for me in different stages of my life, one more formal, one more informal. That's very exciting for me. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank many people, all the teachers and mentors, again, both formal and informal, you know who you are, for a lot of guidance and inspiration. My colleagues and co-authors, the Mid-Career Award Committee, the entire EconCS community, and all the funding agency who have funded my work throughout the years. And above all, and this is really an exciting part, is I would like to really thank all the students and postdoc in my lab throughout the years. There is a Hebrew saying, מכל מלמדיי השכלתי ומתלמידיי יותר מכולם, which translates to, I've acquired so much wisdom from all my teachers, yet it is my students who have taught me the most. So thank you very much for everything I've learned from all of you. So in today's talk, I would like to focus on a significant distinction between economics and computer science, where economics has traditionally emphasized exact optimal solutions and characterizations, whereas computer science has emphasized the approximation perspective. The approximation formalism considers the ratio between the value of some objective function f in a constrained world and the value of this objective function f in a perfect unconstrained world. And CS has a long tradition on approximation corresponding to different types of constraints. For example, approximation ratio is for computational constraints, and we have a competitive ratio with respect to online algorithms, informational constraints, and the price of anarchy considering strategic constraints. And all of these concepts are truly amazing and yielded fascinating results and theories, but today I would like to focus less on like the mere bounds that they provide, and more on the way that the approximation lens reveals structure and patterns that is otherwise hidden when perceiving the world through optimization theory alone. So let's start with an example about auctions with interdependent values. So some time ago, I went to the EC website and I found this announcement. The SIG has also secured a large block of university dorm rooms. And I considered, like, what's my value for a dorm room? And then I realized that there are so many factors affecting my value for the dorms that I have no information about. For example, how large they are, do they have private bathroom, are they clean, how close they are to the conference venue, is it going to rain, do they have air conditioning, and most importantly, suppose I reserve one, would I get it, right? Some of you know what I'm talking about. And different people hold different cards, holding different pieces of information that is relevant for my information. For example, maybe Maria knows more about these factors, or Felix, or people that are more local, but the different pieces that everybody holds really affect my value, and I don't know these pieces. As another example, here is a doodle, and I can ask you, what's your value for this doodle? And perhaps, again, you don't have all the information in order to understand what's your value for it, because, for example, you may not know who painted this if you haven't attended some conferences in the past. But now that I give you this information, you may value it more. Some would say that Picasso was one of the early approximators. And a fun fact about his doodles is that they have all been painted in one brush stroke. So this is one example. Go to Google and look for the doodles, amazing doodles, all one brush stroke. Anyway, let's go to the model. So we have a single item for sale. Every bidder I has a private signal SI and a public valuation VI that, again, is a function of the signals of everybody else. So everybody knows my value as a function of the signals, but no one knows the signals. Everybody only knows, agent I only knows her own signal. And the goal is to maximize the social welfare. In the case of a single item, is just to allocate the item to the agent who values it the most. Okay, so let's go to optimization theory. According to optimization theory, this setting is perfectly understood. What do I mean by perfectly understood? For single item, the optimal welfare can be obtained in a truthful mechanism if and only if valuation satisfies a condition called single crossing, no matter what it means. However, this condition is very restrictive, and it doesn't capture many valuations we care about. Okay, but this is an if and only if, so what can we do? If our valuations are not single crossing, we are done according to optimization theory. And then beyond single item, the situation is even worse. We can do nothing, just nothing. Okay, so let's go to approximation theory and see what approximation theory has to say about it. So we have this result saying that if valuation satisfies submodularity over signals, which we call SOS, then approximately optimal welfare can be obtained truthfully, and approximately optimal, I mean constant factor approximation. And these SOS, so first let me tell you what SOS valuations are. What it means is that for every agent I and all signal profiles of other agents, S minus I smaller than S prime minus I, if S minus I is lower, the profile of other is lower, then the sensitivity of I to SI is higher. Okay, so this captures decreasing marginal returns over signals, and this is a very natural generalization of submodular set functions. And this property turns out to be really important for understanding interdependent values. And when looking at interdependent values from optimization theory alone, it's completely concealed. SOS doesn't matter. Okay, so now that we know about SOS, this is for single item, but if valuations are SOS, we can get constant approximation even for a huge complex markets with many items and complex combinatorial valuations. So this means that SOS is really important. Now let's challenge ourselves even more. So until now I told you about private signals and public valuations. What if both the signals and the valuations are private? This is much more realistic, but much more complex. So again, what does optimization theory has to say about it? Nothing can be done. Okay, strong impossibility result, hopeless. And recently, we were able to obtain another result about SOS valuations, that for single item, if valuations are SOS, then we can get constant approximation for, even in the case that both signals and valuations are private. Okay, so again, this SOS property is extremely strong and extremely crucial in our understanding of interdependent valuations. And it was completely unimportant through optimization theory. Let's take another example that demonstrates the richness of the approximation paradigm. So many of you know profit inequalities. We have a sequence of n values arriving online. Every value is drawn from a known distribution, for example, uniform 2040, but unknown values. And values are revealed online, and upon the realization of a value, we should decide whether to stop and keep the current price, in which case the game ends, or continue, in which case the prize is lost forever and the game continues to the next box. So for example, I can ask you, okay, who takes 33, who takes 22? If you take it, the game ends, and you know the distributions, and you have to decide when to stop. So the goal is to maximize the expected value. And again, using the approximation paradigm, there is a beautiful theory, this time coming from OR, not from CS, in the 70s, showing that the gambler can get half of the expected maximum value using a very simple single threshold strategy. And in fact, a very nice paper by Kleinberg and Weinberg has shown that this can be extended using a different threshold that also provides this half approximation to beyond a single item, where you have multiple items with matroid feasibility. Good, nice. So, okay, again, approximation gives us like the limits of what can we do. And then in another paper, we have shown that this half approximation factor extends even beyond to huge multi-item markets as long as agents have submodular or XOS valuations. So again, we get this half approximation, thanks to Noam for the beautiful hierarchy of valuations. And then to even further demonstrate the richness of the approximation paradigm, we are not restricted to use precisely the competitive ratio. For example, in a recent work, Christos has used this approximation paradigm against a different benchmark for the same setting, for the same matching setting or market setting, but with a different benchmark, which is the optimal online solution. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, this was like, it was just for the, you know, for the trick. Sorry, yes, of course. Good, okay. So I think it's fair to say that the approximation paradigm is slowly gaining traction in economic theory as well, at least in economic journals. But more importantly, and this is like now getting more personal, it's also gaining traction in my own personal journey, where I have come to appreciate the impact of perceiving the world in its nuanced shades rather than restricting myself to black and white perspective. And this is happening in many domains in my life. Some of them I won't share, but let me give you a few examples. So first of all, I no longer concur to this binary distinction between work and life, like we all talk about work-life balance. I personally feel that there are so many aspects in my work that are truly inherent to my life. So work is not a distinct thing from my life, it's an inherent part of my life. I gain so much from my work. I get friends, I get fun, I get inspiration, I get creativity, and all of these are really inherent parts of my life. As another example, there is a beautiful theory by Winnicott, our famous psychoanalyst, about a good enough mother. And what he argues is that a good enough mother is better than a perfect mother. And by extension, a good enough parent and a good enough mentor and a good enough spouse, and you can take it wherever you want. And a final note before I end is about the role of mathematics in our life. So there are people like Hardy who emphasizes only the sheer beauty and aesthetics of mathematics and treat everything else as completely irrelevant. And on the other extreme, there are people who argue that we should only value those aspects of mathematics that are useful to engineers and applied sciences. And I personally prefer to take a more balanced view, and I feel very fortunate to work in a field that combines very beautifully deep and elegant mathematics with practical applications. So with that, I'll end. Just a final message. Live your life in the grays, both academically and personally. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Michal, for a great talk. We have time for a couple of questions. Sorry, you're right.
Would you like to make some comments, or I would like you to make some comments on how you think of, doing an approximation approach versus, let's say, a robust approach or something else which takes seriously that's, exact optimals in a purely specified environment might be hard or restrictive. And related to that is also, how as an economist should I think of figuring out whether approximation factors are acceptable or not. So something that's like, 0.01 approximal, is that something that is good or bad? And how do we think about that?
Okay, thank you for the question. So I think we shouldn't take seriously numbers when we work on approximation. It's not really about the numbers they provide. It's more about the insights they give us. So for example, if we can have like constant factor approximation, it tells us something, and it's not really important whether it's 0.1 or 0.5, because anyway, these numbers are really worst case, and in the real life, we shouldn't expect to see those numbers. In real life, we will see much higher numbers. But they tell, if we can get constant approximation, it's telling us something compared to a world where we can do nothing better than linear approximation. So it tells us something about how manageable is it to approximate, to use approximation or heuristics in order to solve the problem. But my view, I know some others think differently, is that we shouldn't really care too much about the exact numbers.
Great. Maybe let's leave it there because we're on a tight timeline and we got started late. But thanks again, Michal. I was having trouble with my phone at the beginning. I was trying to pull up the citations, and I failed. So I'd like to read the citations for both of the awardees now, even though you already heard Michal's description of what she does. Our citation for Michal was Contributions to Algorithmic Mechanism Design, Algorithmic Contract Design, and Combinatorial Allocation Problems. So thanks, Michal, for your contributions to the field.